Hey, folks, here we are. We are live. It is Thursday, May 20th. Month is almost gone, and we're here today. I'm Tom Young. We're here for the podcast called Money Shifts and Facebook Live. I'm here to inspire you, to get you to want to grow. There is so much opportunity that sits and lays in front of each and every one of us. But it takes work. It will take growth. It will take control of the way we think, and on and on. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the financial storm today. We're going to talk about some more principles of prosperity. And we want to have prosperity thinking instead of poverty thinking. The Road Less Traveled is the book that we've been following this month. And really, it comes right down to that decision that we make to control how we think. Instead of just accepting what the world tells us about, this is what I want you to think, we want to step back and approach it how to think about things. Because when we do, we will see things differently and we will find other answers that maybe we didn't even know existed. As we start every presentation every day, we start with prayers for everybody in the world that has now been affected, impacted, caused harm by this China virus. We also pray for those who have lost loved ones during this period. And we also pray for the loved ones that have been lost, literally for everyone that has been lost, that the Lord would open his arms with his mercy and take them into his kingdom above, which is infinite. In Jesus' name we pray. So today I want to talk about the financial storm. You know, I picked up a piece out of the newspaper. I collect newspaper articles. You know, there it is. I don't know whether you can see that. You can't read it. But this was in the Wall Street Journal on January of 2019. And it was a discussion about the government debt that now exceeds $30 trillion, or about $225,000 per taxpayer. It's about $85,000 per citizen that is now leveraged against our future. You know, the title of this article is "Debt Denial is a Threat to America." American Economic Association put bluntly, Mr. Blanchard said, public debt may have no fiscal cost. I love that. You know, do deficits matter? Between Republican tax cuts, Democratic spending proposals, U.S. lawmakers act as if the answer is no. Lately, academic economists have echoed this sentiment, advocating large unfunded infrastructure spending programs, the main thrust of former International Monetary Fund chief economist Oliver Blanchard's recent presidential address to the American Economic Association. This view, known as modern monetary theory, rests on false premises. One is that the U.S. government will likely be able to borrow at low interest rates indefinitely. Now, what did I just say, folks? Low interest rates indefinitely. How's that help your savings grow? Okay. Another is that so long as the U.S. nominal growth rate is greater than the rate at which its government borrows, America can always grow its way out of debt problems. Never mind that amid full employment and low interest rates, according to the IMF, the U.S. has a general budget deficit of more than 5% of gross domestic product, and the general government debt level exceeds 100% of the GDP. Even if the government's borrowing rate were to stay low, the public debt to GDP ratio would still increase indefinitely. Growth is no panacea. These ideas that people have, modern monetary theory, rests on dangerous false premises. the U.S. won't grow its way out of the red. You know, it's an interesting article, and I have articles, I collect newspaper articles. I have articles that go back all the way into the 1990s. And this discussion has been going on for decades about the government borrowing and paying back. And I remember in 1999, supposedly Bill Clinton had balanced the budget. Now, the debt wasn't gone, but on an annual basis, they didn't borrow any money. They made enough money in revenue to pay that year's bills. Now, I don't know how the heck that happened, how they were able to mask it in the bookkeeping, and how they people calculate things, and there's a saying, it's coming to my mind, I'll think of it in a minute, liars figure and figures don't lie. I don't get it. So the financial storm, what does that really mean to us? What is the potential things that can happen with this financial storm that is growing every day in Washington? The debt's 30 trillion, soon to be more than that, and the unfunded liability is over $155 trillion, which is close to $500,000 per taxpayer. $400,000 per citizen, and $1.3 million per taxpayer. So you add those two together, we're down $1.5 million. How's that sound for a mortgage, folks? There's the mortgage on your future, your children's future, your grandchildren's future, $1.5 million. And they're not making any payments. They're increasing the debt every day, continuing to spend money, continuing to make promises as they spend money, these big omnibus bills in the government where they spend money to build bridges and tunnels and things that are irrelevant to the future success of our monetary system. Now they're talking about the big reset, whatever that means. I haven't figured that out yet. But what it sounds like to me is a crash is coming. And when the crash comes, what do you mean crash, Tom? Well, I think, in my mind, my opinion, I believe it's going to be tied to hyperinflation. Now, what is inflation? Let's have a discussion about inflation and what inflation really is. Inflation is every time the Federal Reserve prints more money, not just printing money to replace the bad paper and to replace the money that is degraded, and they take it out and they put new money, new dollar bills in and take old ones out. That's what I'm talking about, printing more money, expanding the money supply. Well, expanding the money supply means that your dollars are worth less. Historically, inflation has been manipulated by the federal government because they have changed the method of calculating inflation several times over the last 20, 30 years. In the decade of the 80s, Jimmy Carter, the late 70s, and the beginning of the 80s, Jimmy Carter was president. In 1979 or 1980, we had inflation in 1 year of 15.6%. 1980, the government stepped up and said, well, no, that can't be right. And they took automobiles and home mortgages out of the equation. Okay? And all of a sudden, inflation was now lower. And during the decade of the 80s, in 1986, Reagan, through the compromise with the Democratic Congress, for the tax act in the 80s that lowered the marginal rate from the 50, 70% they were down to the 28, 32, whatever it lowered it down to. This was a negotiation between Ronald Reagan and the Democratic Congress. They caused the savings and loans in America to absolutely collapse. And that cost 80 to $100 billion of taxpayers' money to bail that out after the politicians changed the tax code without phasing it in over a period of time. They cut the head of the turkey off right instantly. They did that by changing depreciation schedules on commercial property. They went from 19 years depreciation to 39 years depreciation. And it took a lot of cash flow off the table. It devalued commercial property and in turn caused mortgages for commercial property across America to collapse so much that the savings and loan industry, as we used to remember them, went bankrupt. So they went away. So we have no savings and loans anymore. Some of them that were fiscally sound became banks. Most of them disappeared and went out of business. And the people that had money in those institutions, because in a savings and loan, that's a credit union, so savings and loans, but the Glendale Savings and Loan in California, which is the largest of all of them in America that went bust, they actually sued the federal government and won to prove a point, because you can't sue the federal government and get anything, but they did it to prove a point. And they absolutely proved that it was the government's bungling of tax decisions that caused the collapse of the entire savings and loan. So how long do you and I as consumers have to wait till the next collapse? We need to stand up and make our representatives aware that we are very unhappy with everything that's going on. The Democrats seem to be spending money like it's water, and there is no end in it. And it's all political because it is revenge and payback decisions, in my opinion, on what's going on. So anyway, how can you and I protect ourselves from the coming monster storm? Well, number one, you have to start saving enough money. You have to accumulate some money. So saving starts at 20%, and that's in my Financial Mastery Blueprint that teaches you how to do that, how to find the 20% of your gross annual income to save without taking away from your lifestyle. I mean, if you could save 20% of your income without losing any of your lifestyle, would you? There's the question. I have to ask that of people because I find that some people, they don't care. They don't care, and they wouldn't save it if I showed them how. Rule number two, you have to accumulate capital equal to 50% of your gross annual income. So if you make $100,000 a year, you need 50 in cash. You make 150, you need 75,000 in cash. Now, what does that do? That accelerates, number one, the savings. Number two, it absolutely protects you from having to carry credit card balances that could be anywhere from 18 to 28% annual interest. What are you doing that for? Why are you willingly giving 18 to 28% to the credit card companies? Because you haven't figured out how to discipline yourself on how to save? Or maybe you're not inspired. Maybe you haven't realized, in other words, in your mind, you're thinking, oh, woe is me, this is all it's ever going to be, so it's blah, 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 blah. Get over it. The dreams are there, folks. You can get there. You can do this. Because I went through I went through hell 30 years ago, right up to the very edge of filing bankruptcy. And I was fortunate enough to meet a man that turned me around and showed me how to stand up, be a man, suck it up, and fix it. And what I have learned in the last 29 years is really all I'm trying to share with people, to help you find your way to those dreams and things in life the way you would really like it to be. That's what it's about. And the third rule is no consumer debt, no balances beyond 30 days. If you got something you can't pay off in 30 days out of your current income after savings, then you shouldn't have bought it. Or you become the bank, you finance it, you pay for it, and then you pay yourself back at interest. Now, why is that so important? Because I talk to people who say, well, I save as much as I can when, I buy something. If we project to retirement, that magical day in all of our lives we think about, the day that if I don't have to go to work anymore unless I choose to, okay? How much money do I need when I get there? Do you know? I've never met anybody that knew that number. Oh, we can do some hypothetical assumptions and assume this and assume that, and we can come up with a number. But you know how often that number is going to be correct? Almost never. So how much money do I need to have when I get there? All I can have. And between now and then, I don't want to just pile up money. I want to look at money as an income source, because retirement is really passive residual income equal to or greater than your lifestyle need. How much money do you need the first of the month to come in to cover your lifestyle in the next 30 days? If you don't know that number, you need to get into the blueprint and print out the cash flow worksheet and figure that out. Some people refer to it as a budget. See, to me, budgets are like diets. They never work. You need to do a cash flow analysis. That's the CFO project. In other words, you are the CFO at home. And you need to accept that responsibility to take control of the money that's flowing through your house, through your pockets. We'll talk about this more next week. So we're going to cut it off for today. The word today was imitation. Imitation, the action of using someone or something as a model. A thing intended to simulate or copy something else. Sir Isaac Newton, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. We all want to look at the future and believe that something out there is better. Something is going to come along. Life is going to be grand. If you don't have an expectation of that, it's never going to happen. It doesn't happen by, boom, the Big Bang Theory. It doesn't happen that way. It takes thought in the thinking muscle. It takes action. It takes effort. And that's what we're talking about. So God bless. We'll see you here again tomorrow at noon for further discussion about the financial storm that's coming. Get my new book, The Family Money Farm, The CFO Project. Get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. They all have it. It's out there. Selling like hotcakes. You need to get your copy and read it because it will change your thinking in a very positive way. You can also go to cfo-project.com. There it is right above me. Put in your name and email address. You'll get a link and instantly be able to download a copy cover to cover. And over there's an opportunity to invest $47. And you will get 5 ebooks and a 1-hour video over there. They will literally change your life. And that Financial Mastery Blueprint is going to be loaded up there in the next day or two. So even if you bought it today and it's not there, I will make sure you get a link and a copy of the Financial Mastery Blueprint. So God bless. We'll see you here tomorrow at noon. Bye now.